added the card from Часть in a few chapters before this one, when we added all components we are going to need. So just double check that you have add components UI card inside of your project right here, and make sure you add these 4 imports from that package. So now let's go ahead and let's actually use that card here, and let's go ahead and give it a class name full width, full height, and the width is going to be fixed to 486 pixels. Border will be none, and shadow will be none as well. Then let's go ahead and let's add a card header component and a card title component. Inside of the card title, I'm going to say welcome back. And let me just refresh my page, and let me go to /sign in so we can actually see that. So make sure you are at /sign in and not /sign up, because we are currently developing our app out sign in page.tsx, which has the sign in card. So make sure you're seeing that properly. Now let's go ahead and give the card title a class name of text2xl, like that. And let's go ahead and give the card header a class name of flex items center, justify center, text center, padding of 7, like that. Below the card header, let's go ahead and let's add a div here and a class name px of 7. And now I want to create my own type of separator. So we already have a separator from Часть, but the problem with that separator is that it only comes in flat lines, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a margin bottom so you can see the separator right here. It only comes in flat lines, but I want to create my own dotted separator. Let's go ahead and learn how to create that funky little component. So my own components are going to go inside of the components folder. I'm not going to add them inside of the UI folder. I'm going to reserve the UI for Часть related components. So inside of my components, I'm going to create dotted dash separator .tsx. And let's go ahead and let's import our cn util. Let's go ahead and let's prepare the interface for dotted separator props. So we're going to have all of them completely optional. The class name, which is a string, color, height, dot size, gap size, and direction, which can be either horizontal or vertical. Then let's export const dotted separator here. Let's assign the props. And let's destructure all the props which we might need here. So class name, color, which by default will have a specific gray color. So make sure you've added this. Then we're going to have height, which by default will be 2 pixels. Then we're going to have dot size, which will also be 2 pixels. Then we're going to have gap size, which will be 6 pixels. And then we're going to have the direction, which by default, if not set, will be horizontal, like that. Let's go ahead and let's create a Boolean variable here, is horizontal, so that we don't have to do, the direction check every time. We can just do it once here, and then we can do ifs later on. Let's go ahead and let's return a div here. And let's create a class name with a cn. If is horizontal, we're going to render full width, flex, and items center. Otherwise, we're going to render full height, flex, flex column, and items center. And then we're going to add a comma at the end of here, and we're going to pass in class name, meaning that user can extend this however they want from the outside of the component as well. So what's important is this territory clause right here. Then we're going to go ahead and add another div inside. And this will actually be a self-closing div, and it's going to be the last element we add here. And this one will have a bit more styles. So first of all, a class name, again, we'll check inside of, well, we don't have to use cn here because we don't have to worry about merging. So just if is horizontal, use flex grow. Otherwise, flex grow 0. And now we have to do the rest in styles because Tailwind will not exactly support, Tailwind's just-in-time compiler will not exactly support this kind of dynamic variables which we need. So let's go ahead and define the width to be if is horizontal, 100%. Otherwise, it's going to be the height variable which we have. Then for the height, again, if is horizontal, we're going to use the height variable or 100%. For the background image, we're going to go ahead and open backticks. And then we're going to go ahead and write radial gradient. And make sure that whenever you're writing this, you do it exactly like this, right? So make sure there are no typos here. It's going to be a circle. We're going to add a color variable here. So this is the kind of things we are not able to do dynamically in Tailwind. So that's why we're using the style prop here. So color. Without a comma, so just a space, 25%, and then a comma, transparent, and then a space, 25% again. Great. After that, let's add a background size, which is going to check if is horizontal. In that case, we're going to open backticks, and we're going to parse integer dot size plus parse integer gap size, and add pixels at the end here. And then after that, simply add a height. Otherwise, we're going to open backticks again, and we're going to use the height, and then parse int dot size plus parse int gap size in pixels, like that. After background size, we're going to have background repeat option. If is horizontal, it's going to be repeat X, otherwise repeat Y. And last one, background position, center. So you just created your own separator component here, and it's also heavily customizable. Let's try it out. I'm now going to go back inside of my features, Auth components, sign in card, and I'm going to use the dotted separated here, like this. And let's go ahead and see whether we did something incorrectly here, because it looks like our dotted separator at the moment is not appearing. So I'm just going to go ahead and debug what went wrong. Well, the issue seems to be in my typo. So go back inside of the dotted separator, and I misspelled circle. This is circle. So circle. And there we go. We now have a nice dotted separator, which we can use either vertically or horizontally, depending on our needs. Great. We can now continue developing our sign-in card. So I'm just going to leave this at px of 7 here, like that. Below that, I'm going to go ahead and add a card content here. I'm going to give the card content a class name, space y4, like this. My apologies, I'm going to give it a padding of 7, actually. And then I'm going to add a form element, which will have a class name, space y4, like this. And now let's go ahead and let's add our input component from components UI input. Let's go ahead and make it required. Let's give it a type of email. Let's go ahead and give it a value of email. Let's go ahead and give it an onChange for now to just be an empty arrow function, and value here can also be empty because we don't have the email constant just yet. Let's give it a placeholder, enter email address. And let's give it a disabled prop of false. Now make sure you have added the input import here. You can remove the separator import. And one thing that I want you to add is use client here. Once you add use client, you will get rid of that error. So what happened with that error? In Next.js, every component and file which is used inside of the app folder is considered to be a server component. So in order to, well, it would be incorrect to say to convert a component to use client. The more correct term is to open a boundary between server and client. Why am I using that terminology specifically? Well, you can see that adding use client here fixes our issue. But we can also do this. we can go inside of the out folder, and we can go inside of a sign in, and we can mark this entire thing as use client. You can see that that resolves the issue as well, right? So that's why the terminology convert a server component to a client component should be avoided, right? It's incorrect. The correct version is you've opened a boundary between server and client, because once again, you can also resolve it by going in layout, for example. If I go inside of the out layout and mark this as use client, let's go ahead and refresh and see. Looks like it doesn't work on the layout. All right, I was incorrect. My apologies. Yes. So why does it not work here? That's because we are passing our children through the children prop. So you can actually combine client and server components if you're going to pass them through children. But that is, a topic we can discuss later. I don't want you to confuse you too much. What I want you to do now is go inside of the sign in page and mark the page as use client instead. This way you don't have the errors anymore in the sign in card, and you don't have to open the boundary that low. You can open the boundary a bit higher because we are going to use some client stuff in this page here as well. So let's focus on the sign in card for now. Great, we have added this input here. Let's go ahead and copy and paste this input now. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a type of password, and this will be enter password. Let's go ahead and give it a minimum value of 8 and a maximum value of 256. And let's give it the disabled is already false. Great, so we now have enter email and we have enter password. And below that, I want to add a button component from components UI button. So make sure you have added this as well. And our button component will simply say login. Let's go ahead and give this a disabled of false. Let's give it a size of large and a class name of full width, like this. There we go. You can see that we now have a very nice looking sign-in component here. Let's go ahead and develop it a bit further. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go outside of the card content here, and I'm going to go ahead and add another div with a class name px of 7, and I'm going to add a dotted separator here again. And then I'm going to add a new card content here with a class name of padding 7, flex column, and gap y of 4. And then inside of here, I'm going to add another button, which will say login with Google. And I'm going to give this a variant of secondary, size of large, a class name of full width, and I'm also going to give it an explicit disabled false. So the reason I'm adding those are because I just want to remember later on to disable them. Great, so we have this. Let's copy and paste this, and let's change this to login with GitHub, for example. Or, you'll see later when we add AppWrite, it will be quite easy to add any other providers you might want to. Great, so I kind of want to improve this a bit by adding a package. So either bun add or npm install, depending on what you use, React icons. So that's the package we are going to need. And now let's go ahead and let's add 2 of which we are going to use. So that's going to be FC Google from React icons FC. And we're going to need, I think, FA GitHub from React icons FA. I hope I'm correct with this imports. So my login with Google will have FC Google here with a class name MR of 2 and size of 5. There we go. And my login with GitHub will have an FA GitHub with a class name MR of 2 and a size of 5 as well. There we go. So a very nice component for us to have here for signing in. And now what I want to do is I want to copy this entire component here called sign in card. And let's call this one sign up card, like this. Let's go ahead inside of the sign up card and let's just briefly modify it. So it's going to be pretty similar. Let's immediately rename it so we don't forget sign up card. So the difference is going to be that the title will say sign up here. And we're also going to have a card description, which you can import right here from Components UI card. And before we develop anything further, I just want to go inside of my source app auth sign up page. I want to mark this page as use client, and I want to return the sign up card. Whoops. From features auth components sign up card. And now we can go to localhost 3000/sign up here. And there we go. Now it says sign up. Now let's develop that card directly. So we left off at the card description. So let's go ahead and add, a description which you would most likely have on your sign up form. By signing up, you agree to our, let's go ahead and add a manual space like this. And then let's add a link component. You can import link from next link, like I'm going to do here. And inside, let's go ahead and add a span privacy policy. And this can simply go to /privacy, even though we're not going to develop this page. This will, simply render your privacy policy. Let's go ahead and give this a class name of text blue 700. There we go. You agree to our privacy policy or privacy policy. And then let's go ahead and add another space here. And let's go ahead and copy and paste this link like that. We can remove this one at the end, and this will go to /terms. And we can go ahead and do the following. And then another space here, terms of service. There we go. So now our sign up form has, by signing up, you agree to our privacy policy and terms of service. Great. Now, besides the inputs for email and password, the sign up form will also have a typed text here and enter name like that, or more personally enter your name like this. So when we sign up, we're also going to have enter your name and enter alongside these other features here. Before we wrap up our sign up cards, let's go ahead and let's actually add the functionality to control these values. Now, since these are very simple forms, there is actually nothing stopping us from, just adding a set state here if that's what you want. But if you remember in the beginning when we set up Chat-cn and added all the components we need, we also installed React hook form. So just double check that you have this installed inside of your package JSON here. If you don't, go ahead and install it. And same is true for Zod. You need to have this as well. And I think there is also one more, maybe not. All right, we're gonna go ahead and develop and see whether it's missing or not. So let's go inside of our source, inside of features. Let's go inside of sign in card, and inside of here, I'm going to import use form from React hook form. And then I'm going to create my form schema here from which I will use Z from Zod. So let me just import Z from Zod here like that. So z.object here, and I'm going to have my email, which will be a z.email. Let's go ahead and z.string.email like this. And we're going to have a password, which will be a string as well. Great. Now inside of here, let's add our form to be use form. And let's go ahead and add default values here. Email empty and password empty, like this. And now we need to add our Zod resolver to connect it with the form schema. So let's see whether we have this package or not. So